In the last video we examined proportions and how in your average adult there will be 8 heads, one on top of each other, so there's an 8-to-1 proportion, and children and teenagers are slightly different, and superheroes are tend to be 9 heads, small heads and massive bodies. But when drawing a cartoon, which you'll remember is a simple 2-dimensional drawing, you can do anything you like. At the end of the last video, I said how cartoons kind of split into 2. They can be quite realistic, although they're still very flat and 2-dimensional, or they can be more bizarre and going into the character, in which case you can extend the arms for 3 miles if you like and have a huge head and a small body in a classic kind of caricature. If you're doing a realistic drawing, then you will still have the same proportions and you'll still have the same skeleton inside. There'll just be a lot more weight on the outside. And in a kind of character drawing, you can just go a little bit crazy. Here, let me show you.
Well, they do say inside every fat person is a thin person trying to get out. So let's see how that works. That will be the head, and we'll come halfway down to the shoulders. We'll build a kind of a box there. This is the central kind of pivot point around which we build that triangle. And there's the kind of pivoting ball joint in the middle. The legs come out. The knee is about there, ankle and feet. And here we can hang, that's on that line there. We have the elbow coming down to the wrist and the hands like that. Now let's see what we do here. Now the chin here will be just a little bit bigger and there'll be a bit more jowly kind of cheeks. We can have the ears, and maybe the kind of hair is going to be a little bit like that, something like that. And the neck will be a bit more chubby. Let's put a shirt in there. I'm going the wrong direction. There we are. Hang on. Let's put a kind of a shirt there. And let's think. This is round about where the belly button is going to be. But I think, in fact, you know, it's going to be a full kind of shirt here that's going to be rather hanging over the belt. You're not going to see much of the belt hidden underneath there. And the shoulders are going to be a bit chunkier, and everything's going to be kind of filling that shirt up a little bit more. And it's going to need kind of a bit more cloth and tucked in at the seams, and then going to have a hand there. And then I think these trousers or pants are going to be quite wide in the beam there and quite full in the cut, and we can just sort of see that there's some pockets there and shoes at the bottom. And I think, you know, as I've got older in life, I kind of recognise this shape a little bit more. So you can still see there's a skeleton inside there with a lot of padding on it, but we still got the 8-to-1 proportion. So it kind of looks realistic, but we can do something completely different if we want. We can have a slightly bigger head, and we can have the shirt coming right up there, and we can have the armpits starting right up there, and I'm going to just basically come all the way down like this. I'm going to have the waist right up there, and the arms, I'm going to have quite short arms, and then we can have this sort of very, very strangely shaped person, but it's still basically on the same height, but very, very different. Still on that same kind of principle, roughly where we were here, then we can have maybe a thin little head, the long neck, thin body. We could maybe have a very long body, and we could do all sorts of strange things. Long face, long body, with a shirt and very kind of rolled down shoulders and a really long thin body tucked into a belt there, and then you can have very long down to the knee. It all looks wrong, but it doesn't look wrong in some ways, because a cartoon allows for this kind of weird mucking about and playing with proportions, because what you start doing now is start creating character. I'm doing terrible hands because I'm drawing. What you're really doing is starting to create character. This would be a long thin body, buckled legs, maybe he's been riding a horse or something. Something's happened. I think we have two kinds of cartoon character. This one, based on sort of classic proportions, is telling a more realistic, everyday kind of story, whereas these kind of more distorted characters will start telling more distorted and more outlandish kind of stories.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope you realise you can go in two directions with cartoons, or you can go both if you like. You can go in the more realistic kind of thing. Although it's a flat two-dimensional drawing, you can still be quite realistic about it. Or you can go into the classic kind of caricature, bizarre kind of cartoon character. But beneath each style of drawing are the skeletons and the mannequins and the stick men that are going to allow you to make your characters look like they should and make them look honest and proper on the page.